Australia's 5-year environmental scorecard is out, showing all areas under pressure and detailing catastrophic losses to species and habitats. The new minister is promising to significantly protect more land and sea, taking that up to 30% protection by 2030. Let's go live to our political reporter, Andrea Crothers, standing by. Andrea, Tanya Plibersek released the report at the Press Club. Start by taking us through, if you can, some of the key findings in, as we mentioned there, a report released every 5 years.
Yeah, Kieran, this this 5-year report card, as you said, the new Environment Minister, she has described it as difficult, confronting and at times depressing. Inside, we've got a more than 2,000-page scathing review. Some of those key findings: Australia has lost more mammal species to extinction than any other continent. 202 new animal and plant species added to the threatened list. We also don't know the full impacts of the Black Summer bushfires yet. That's expected to get worse. 7.7 million hectares of habitat of threatened species has been cleared between 2000 and 2017. So that's an area bigger than the size of Tasmania. On water, we know the Murray-Darling Basin fell to record lows in 2019. So with that, also seeing that only 2 gigalitres of the 450 gigalitres have been promised to be recovered from the basin have actually been delivered. And also Australia's cities, the major cities, they're growing at a faster rate than seen overseas, which is actually seeing more pollution, more waste, and of course urban heat as well bumping up. Now, Kieran, in terms of the response we're seeing from the government here today, there were a few things we knew about, but also some things that have been promised today. So the Environmental Protection Agency, a body that will be set up, reaffirming the commitment to that. There'll be the National Water Commission introduced, and also that overhaul to environmental protection laws. So Tanya Plibersek providing a bit more detail on that today, saying that it'll be a challenging process, but she hopes to have those new laws drafted by next year. The other big commitment today, 30% of land and ocean protected by 2030. Take a listen.
Our government will set a goal of protecting 30% of our land and 30% of our oceans by 2030. We'll explore the creation of new national parks and marine protected areas, including by pursuing the East Antarctic Marine Park.
So, Kieran, this is a really interesting point, because in terms of where we are at currently, Plibersek herself said that the perimeter for oceans, that measure has actually already been hit. But in terms of land, Australia is at around a quarter of that, so around that 25% mark. Exactly how they'll achieve that next step, that remains unclear. The minister was asked about that at the Press Club today, and she said, spoke about talking to states regarding more national park area, also more Indigenous areas, but it remains to be seen as to whether they'd be therefore looking to perhaps buy back more private land or perhaps potentially put more restrictions on land that is there.
Yeah, and we've got some agricultural representatives joining us from AgForce shortly to get their thoughts on that, because as you point out, the minister suggesting that the low-hanging fruit on protecting the land has been already taken, so they've got to think outside the square, I guess, in that sense. Now, the minister had a fair whack at her predecessor as well, didn't she?
And Kieran, we know that this report was actually handed back to the Morrison government in December, but they refused to release it until after the election. Tanya Plibersek today saying, well, once you read it, you can understand why. Here was some of her criticism.
Years of warnings ignored or kept secret, promises made but not delivered, dodgy behaviour undermining public confidence, brutal funding cuts, willful neglect, laws that don't work to protect the environment or smooth the way for sensible development, all against a backdrop of accelerating environmental destruction.
Yeah, not pulling any punches there. We have also actually got a statement from the opposition that has just come in. Shadow Environment Minister John O'Doniam, he has said Tanya Plibersek needs to get on with her job as Federal Environment Minister rather than engage in partisan finger-pointing and game-playing. Her words did nothing to allay many Australians' growing fears that Labor will be stampeded by the Greens into implementing prohibitively tough environmental laws, more lockups, and industry shutdown. So perhaps not too surprising a response there from the opposition. But Kieran, we know that Labor's first test when it comes to getting legislation through will be, of course, that emissions reduction target.